When I was in elementary school, if you asked a teacher, "Can I go to the bathroom?" a lot of teachers would reply, "I don't know, can you?" This response was often intended to encourage students to learn the distinction between can and may, ability and permission. For me, I didn't learn this. I was just confused. Can I and may I sounded exactly the same to me. Some misuses of the language make me crazy, like when people mix up less and fewer, or then and than. But for some reason, messing up can and may doesn't bother me that much. There are other non-grammar related things that bother me a lot more. So when my students ask me if they can go to the bathroom, I respond in a way that addresses these greater concerns. Some may wonder, why are you making kids ask anyway? Fair point. But as a high school teacher, I have the responsibility to know where my students are, so I have to be informed when they are leaving the classroom. I don't really care if I am asked. They could just inform me and go, but they always tend to ask. And when they ask, one of my responses is, "If you have nothing better to do." Now, I know that sounds a little harsh, but it's not really once you understand the reasoning behind it. Sometimes, often even, a student will ask if they can go to the bathroom when we are right in the middle of something. I have been asked this question in the middle of an explanation that is so important that to miss it would have significant academic consequences for the rest of their life. All they need to do is listen to 5 more minutes. I have found that many students, not all, but many, have not considered context at all, or the potential consequences of their temporary absence. And if they are not even aware of the consequences, they can't possibly take responsibility for them. Not taking responsibility for the consequences of their actions is an affliction of high school students. It's an affliction of many adults. Students have heard a lot about taking responsibility for the actions when it comes to bad things, like skipping class, or being mean or rude to others, or not completing homework, or damaging property. But we don't talk very often about taking responsibility for the consequences of good things, or neutral things. Good things have consequences for which responsibility must be taken as well. If you miss class for an athletic event, you miss some instruction. If you have a job after school, you might have less time for your schoolwork. If you are sick, you will have missed things. And if you go to the bathroom during a class, even for 5 minutes, there are consequences for which responsibility must be assumed. So when a student asks if they can go to the bathroom, a lot of times I feel as if the student is making me responsible for that decision, and that I am tacitly taking responsibility for the consequences of that decision. If you don't hear it, I have another scenario that's analogous to this. When a student comes up and says, "My boss just called and asked me to take a shift, so I have to go to work now. Will I be missing anything important?" Do you hear it now? So when a student says, "Can I go to the bathroom?" and I say, "If you have nothing better to do," I am putting the responsibility for the consequences of this decision onto the student where it belongs. They must assess the relative urgency of going to the bathroom with the presumed importance of the classroom activity in which we are currently engaged. If it's work time in class and there is some biological urgency, then they have nothing better to do than go to the bathroom. That's the right decision, especially given that the consequences are minimal. If there is only some urgency, and they can tell that we are in the middle of an important explanation or a group discussion, then they do have something better to do than go to the bathroom, and ought not leave the class for the time being. If the class is in the middle of the most important activity ever, and the student is desperate to go to the bathroom because a significant catastrophe involving bodily fluids is imminent, then they have nothing better to do than leave. I think this little ritual is important, given that I have some students who continue to be protected from the consequences of their decisions. Occasionally, I have had parents unapologetically insist that I be the one to pay for the consequences of their teen's decision. But that's the subject for another video. My second response to "Can I go to the bathroom?" is go with God. I know that sounds pretty bad, sacrilegious even, but that's part of the point. I only use this response if students are familiar with the Asher Yatzar. It's a blessing of thanksgiving for the wonders of the human body. Here it is. Okay, here it is in English. "Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, King of the universe, who formed man with wisdom and created him with many openings and many hollow spaces. It is obvious and known before your seat of honor that if even one of them would be opened, or if even one of them would be sealed, it would be impossible to survive and to stand before you even for 1 hour. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh and acts wondrously." So why would I even make students familiar with this blessing? Well, if you follow this channel, you know there's a lot of stuff here about worldview. And there's a lot of stuff about worldview in my classroom as well. The modern worldview into which all of us are steeped separates things like mind from body, and modern Christians do this too. We often separate body from soul, and this isn't a very good way to view reality. It messes us up in so many ways. So this Asher Yatzar blessing is one small way to break down these barriers. We can't be separated from our bodies, and our relationship with God always involves our bodies. I love the story about St. Teresa of Avila, where she was sitting in the bathroom once and she was reading out of a prayer book and eating a muffin. According to the story, the devil appears to her and chastises her for bringing the prayer book into the bathroom. He was basically saying that physical stuff was beneath God and that we shouldn't bring him into such circumstances. Keep the physical separated from the spiritual. St. Teresa's reply, "This is for God, this is for me, the rest is for you." So if a student knows the Asher Yatzar, then the student knows what go with God means. It means that the God who holds the universe in his hand is involved in the most lowly and private aspects of our lives. And it matters. And we matter. And even in the restroom, we can pause for a moment and express our gratitude to God for his grace. So some teachers choose to teach kids grammar in every possible moment, and that's fine. I choose to teach them responsibility and patterns of gratitude. Why pass up on any opportunity to teach something important? Thank you, and we'll see you next time.